Hello, and welcome to Orcanos Academy training session. In this short session, we will be reviewing the routing process in the admin section. First step, go to the main menu and access the admin section. In admin section, we're looking at electronic signature and click the routing process. By clicking routing process, you will have a view of all the existing routing processes in your system. Let's quickly review the different columns that appear in the table. On the left side, you have the different actions to edit the name or view the routing process. You have an indication if this routing process is active or not. Be mindful that any routing process that is added to the system cannot be removed, but it can be turned off. See example, these two routing processes are not active, but they cannot be deleted from the system. You have the process name and the process description that is set up when creating a new routing process, and the duration set up for this routing process that can be used for alerts and notifications. Who created the routing process, when it was created, when the last update was done, and by who. I will now be showing an example how we can create a new routing process. By using the common plus button on the right side of the screen, you'll prompt the Manage Process window. You can give a name to your process. For example, you can name a routing process according to who are the people who are signing it, or you can use the function of what the signature process purpose is for. The description you do not have to fill. This is for additional information to describe what this process is. The duration, like I mentioned before, is used for alerts and notifications if the past time of the signature process. Including the logo on cover letter, we recommend using this for all processes so that you always have your company logo on the record page. But if you require a clean record without any logos, you can remove this and your logo will not appear in the record once it is signed. The distribution list is used to include emails of anyone you want notified when this signature process is activated. It doesn't necessarily mean that these people are signing the routing process, just that they'll be notified that such a process has been created. So by hitting save, I've now created this routing process. It prompts a window which now allows me to add all the different signers I want in this routing process. So as you can see, the details are the basic information, and now I can start adding the different signers. Let's review adding a standard signer. By clicking the Add Signer button, I can choose either a user or a group. So by choosing user, I'll automatically have a list of all the different users in my system. So for example, I'm going to choose a user and decide what the quality role they are when they're signing this signature process. For the quality roles, if you want to add any additional quality roles, you can do so in the system table. See system table lecture for more information. You can decide if this signer is mandatory or not by checking the box, and you can decide if they have an alternative signer. The alternative signer will get an email at the same moment of the launch of this signature process, and he will be notified that he's alternative for that person and that signer. Then you can decide the order of the signers. So for the first signer, it doesn't really matter if it's after or with previous, but the more you add the signers, that's how you will build your process of the signatures and the order of who needs to sign before who. So by clicking save, I've now added this person as a signer. I can now add another signer to show you the difference between with and after. So reviewer, you don't always have to have an alternative signer. I can either decide for them to be after, and then my process will look like this, or I can edit and decide that I want it to be with, and then they will both get an email at the same time. I'll now show the example of adding a group into a signature process. So when choosing the signer type as group, the list will be the list of all the different groups you have in your system. So for example, evaluation group can include many users and they will all get an email at the same time to sign a specific record. However, once one person out of the group signs the record, none of the other will be required to sign as well. It is enough for a representative in a group to sign for the process to be complete. The quality rule and the mandatory and the alternative can be in the same form, and I can decide for them to be after or with. So the example of this process flow that we've created will send an email first to Alex and Amalia, and only once they have signed the record will the evaluation group get an email requiring one of the representatives to sign the signature process. It is important to be aware that if one of the initial tier signers have canceled the routing process or not approved the record that was sent to them, the second tier or the following tiers will not receive an email requiring their signature. So it is important to realize that the order and the flow that you create for your signature process should have logic and comply to your company procedures. The next thing we're going to discuss are dynamic signers. This is a highly recommended function that Orcanos suggests to use for all your signature processes. When choosing a user, under the signers list, you have a few options that are considered dynamic signers: the approver, assignee, creator are examples of such fields. For example, for creator, this is a system field that once you include it in your fields layout, it will automatically fill the name of the user who created that record. And when that record is sent for signature, if the creator is part of the signature process, they will automatically be sent an email to sign that record. You can also use the approver and the owner, as custom fields that you can include in any work item fields layout and then use those in your signature process as well. I will show an example of this through the document control. So for example, if I add here the assignee, dynamic field, this is linked to the assigned to system field in our system, and I can have them right at the bottom of my process. I'm now going to show you an example in document control. So I am jumping to document control, an example of a document that I want to send to signature. So I can now start routing, look for the routing process that I have created, manufacturing team and CEO. I can now see the list of all the people, and one of the options at the bottom are the assignee. Of course, when launching a signature, you can always edit and make changes before clicking start, which will shoot the emails and start the process as you've created it here. I'm just going to cancel and show you that here in your fields layout, you have the assigned to field, and within the assigned to, you can assign every document and record to a specific person. This allows you free control to make sure that every document is signed by the person you want it to be. By using the assigned to, you can have fewer routing processes that are applicable for many different documents, and by filling these fields within the record, you can control who the signatures will be sent out to without having to choose a specific user when setting up the routing process. So now that I've set up Sania as the assigned to, if I start routing and assignee is part of my signature process, the email will automatically go to Sania, and she will be the person who will appear on the cover letter of this signed record. Now I'll return to the admin and we will show a few more examples of this setup. By going back to my routing process page and reviewing all the routing processes that are in my system, I can also make changes and edit any of the existing routing processes. For example, the ECO release, if I want to edit any of the details, for example, the process name or the description, all I need to do is click the edit option, and I'll have the window that we viewed before with the manage process. I can add distribution list or make changes to any of these fields. However, if I want to make changes to the actual signature process of the people who need to sign, I can do so by clicking the view. So going back to routing process, if I want to make changes, I can click the view, and this will show me a list of the signers. Making changes to an existing signer you can do by clicking edit, and this will prompt the window of managing that signer. Or you can add new signers to an already existing signature process. And so on. There's no need to click save. As soon as you add the signer and save, this will already be implemented into the whole system that uses this process. So for ECO release process, I will show the example again here in document control. If I choose the ECO release process, you will now see that it already includes the approver. The approver, as mentioned before, is a dynamic field that can be included into your fields layout in all your work items. This is completely up to you to include these dynamic fields where necessary, and we highly recommend using it instead of creating processes flows that include only specific usernames. I hope this session was helpful, and good luck.